Good evening, members. We'll make a start to our meeting this evening, the Regeneration Community Committee, on the 14th of June in the Grange, Omo. We're joined by members in the Chamber and also on WebEx. Can we welcome you this evening? And firstly, thanks to my colleagues for appointing me to this role. I don't know whether it's maybe a bit of a poison chalice or not, but we're here, members, and we're asking for your cooperation. There's a big agenda tonight, and it is a heavy committee, so we'll ask for you to work with us and just to keep your comments to a minimum, and we'll try and get the business done this evening. So the first item on the agenda is apologies, please, members. We'll just go to Councillor Maguire.
Good morning, Carly. Agus Ganyeri and Taulat, Gokyon the Blina Shahuggin. Thank you, Chair, and the best of luck for the year ahead. Two apologies from the Sinn Féin group and tonight, Councillor Anne-Marie Fitzgerald and Councillor Sean Clark.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Irvine, if you have any apologies, you're just done, but.
No, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Garrity, is Mary on?
I'm indeed, Chair. Thanks, Mark, and best of luck in your year ahead. One apology, Councillor Gannon. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Robinson?
No apologies, Chair.
Thank you. Is there any other apologies, members? Councillor Warrington, have you your hand up there?
Yeah, I have. Sorry, I take it he tried to get hold of Councillor Irvine, but he must have been travelling. Councillor Rainey will be late in. He was at a vice chair function somewhere today, quite a bit away, so he'll be late in. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor O'Coffey?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I believe Councillor Keenan will be about 15 minutes late, and he's apologising for that. And also, I'm not sure if Councillor McAleer is on, because if he isn't, he may not be able to attend because travelling.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, members. Item 2 is to sign the minutes of the previous meeting held on the 10th of May. Those have been signed. And item 3 is declarations of interest. Just myself have a declaration on 6.2. Sit on Trolloc Enterprise Limited, but I don't feel I need to leave the chamber. I won't take part if there's a decision on that. So we'll just go for declaration of interest. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you very much, Chair. And can I wish you all the very best for the year ahead in your role as Chair of Regeneration Community Committee. Declarations of interest. 5.3 as a member of the Tullyvar Joint Committee. 6.2 as a member of the Grant Aid Panel. 6.8 as the Chair of the Community Plan and Strategic Partnership Board, and 8.2 as a member of the steering group of the Mid-South West Growth Deal.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Irvine.
Sorry, Chair, yes. 8.2 member of the Mid-South West Steering Group and 9.3 as a PHA board member.
Okay, thank you, Robert. And Councillor Robinson there.
0.3 left Lakeland Tourism.
Thank you. Councillor Armstrong.
Thank you. Yes, 6.8 as a member of the Community Planning Partnership.
Thank you. Just over to WebEx there, members. Councillor Elliott.
Yes, thanks, Chair. A 5.4 member of the County Fermanagh Orange Order. Thanks.
Okay. Councillor Thornton.
Hey, thanks, Chair. I wish you all the best this year. 6.2, a member of the Grant Aid Appeals Panel.
Thank you. And Councillor McPhillips.
Thanks very much, Chair, and Ian, best of luck for your year in the Chair. 6.2 as a member of St Mary's Maguire's Bridge GEA. 6.3 also as a member of Fermanagh Lakeland Tourism. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Garrity.
Thank you, Chair. 6.2, member of the Grant Aid Panel and associated with groups that are receiving money. Thank you.
Okay. And Councillor Donnelly. Stephen Donnelly.
Thanks, Chair, and good luck in the year ahead. 7.2 member PCSP.
Thank you. Councillor Dean.
Thank you, Chair, and congratulations on your appointment as Chair of this committee, and I wish you well in the year ahead. 6.2, the Grant Aid member of some of the recipient groups. and 7.2 as a member of PCSP. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Coyle.
Thank you, Chair, and good luck in your year. 6.2 as a member of the Grant Aid Appeals Panel. Thank you.
Okay, and Councillor Baird, please.
Thank you very much, Chair, and fair play for the year. 5.4 Membership Event Strategy Working Group, 6.2 and 6.3 in relation to Fermanagh Lakeland Tourism. Thank you.
Thank you. And just check your hands, members. If there's any more, we'll take them as we go, sure. We're just going to take the agenda as members, and again, we'll just ask for your cooperation in that. So we're just going to go ahead with matters arising, item number 4. And we'll go through them page by page. Page 1, page 2, and page 3. I think John has an item of correspondence.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, this is correspondence from the Department of Education in relation to a query that we had in relation to the reason for the delay in the verification process, and to seek assurance that it will be resolved before the start of the new term. The correspondence notes that the Education Authority has already responded to us in that regard, but that the Department of Education liaise with the Education Authority on any improvements in its service.
Could we have a proposer to note, please, members? Councillor Thompson, and a seconder, please. Councillor Irving. Thank you, members. Page 3, that was page 3, page 4, page 5, page 6, page 7, page 8, page 9, page 10, page 11, and page 12, page 13. Thank you, members. Okay, thank you, members, for that. On to item 5 on our agenda is the Community and Wellbeing Directorate reports. 5.1 is to consider a report on concession rates for leisure services, and that's over to John.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Chair, the reports in relation to concessionary rates. It was raised at a previous committee meeting to see what we could do in relation to those who are on lower income, see what we could do in relation to leisure services. We currently do offer a number of concessions for people with disabilities, for elderly people, for students. We have household memberships, and we have youth rates up to 6.30. But we have examined what is happening in a number of other councils, and we have brought forward proposals in this report in order to address the barrier to participation that may be out there in relation to those who are on lower incomes. We are proposing a discount rate of not less than 33%, rounded to the nearest 50p, for memberships of those who are aged over 60, those who are registered disabled, full-time students, and for those who are unwaged or on low income. And the definition of that, I suppose, in order to define, is using those who are receiving income-based job seekers allowance, housing benefit, ESA or income support, or receiving working tax credits on less than the upper limit, which is currently 16,190. There will be a need to look at the evidence for eligibility, and that would be required at the point of entry. And for those over 60, it would only be a one-off, but for others, it would be at 3 monthly intervals. In looking at what other councils are doing, also, comparative analysis has showed that there is an reduced rate offered in some leisure complexes for junior membership of under 18 years of age, and it is proposed that this category of user is offered a membership at £15 a month in order to encourage youth to come and use our facilities and to make it more affordable to them. So, Chair, it's recommended that the Council adopts the approach to concessionary pricing at its leisure centres to include a discount of not less than 33% on the membership for those who are aged over 60, disabled, full-time students, and those on low income. For the purpose of those concessionary rates, adopts the definition of low income as receiving the various credits that are listed, introduces a junior membership to his leisure centres at a price of £15 per month, and introduce all of those concessionary rates from September 22.
Okay, members, you've seen the recommendations. Could we go to a proposer? Councillor Maguire.
Go Margaret Carley, thank you, Chair. Yeah, happy enough to propose it, but if we could just ask one question, John, in relation to the the unwaged and low income, how would that practically be adjudicated on if people present to just the front counter? I'm thinking of the forum. Is there a private room or something where the business end of it could be dealt with in private as opposed to people that just at the open counter producing evidence? I'm just wondering practically how we're going to manage that, Chair.
Yes, Chair, just in relation to that, confidentiality is important here, and we would make arrangements in order for the people to be brought round the back of the reception area and to be dealt with in that manner.
Thank you. Councillor Paul Robinson.
Chair, you seconded it. No problem seconding this.
Thank you. Councillor Bell.
Just want to voice my support for this, for the recommendations, Chair. And I think promoting the health and well-being of everyone's, of course, very important, especially the groups identified. Looking at the young people there and creating good, healthy habits is important at a young age. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And Councillor O'Coffey.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I too want to welcome the extension of these provisions to encourage participation in leisure facilities. The question I would have really is around, obviously we are in a crisis of living, cost of living crisis at the moment, and increasingly the norm is now for even the majority of people attending, for example, food banks and the like, to be actually in work, probably ineligible, frankly, under all these criteria you have before you, because really the low income one really is for someone that's on less than £16,000, and frankly, that's almost that's certainly hardly a minimum wage job. I'm wondering, is there any provision or scope to provide some sort of additional support for those in lower incomes that are above, say, £16,000? Because obviously poverty among people even at 20, 24,000 is not unknown at this stage. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks for that, Councillor O'Coffey.
Yeah, Chair, I don't know if that can be addressed through this process, as in provision of support, concessionary support at leisure centres. I think there is a wider issue here in relation to poverty as a whole in our district, and I think we need to address that as a wider aspect for those on lower incomes, and what we can do to support that. And I suppose the next item on the agenda in relation to social supermarkets will go some of the way, but I think there are additional things, and we are actually doing quite a lot in relation to poverty in our district. Not just for this is solely to encourage people for their mental well-being in order to come into the leisure centres.
Okay, we'll just bring in Councillor Green at this point. Councillor Green.
Thank you, Chair. And just John, on first of all, I'd like to welcome this. It's very good in general. Just on the first part of it there, where it says between 20 and 30%, can you explain what the difference is? It almost seems as if it'd be adding bureaucracy. Having a different rate would we'll say around 25% or 30% not be handier than having a different percentage, because it states there, unless I have misread it, that ranging from 20 to 30%. So just why is there a range?
Thank you,
Yeah, Chair, that's the current arrangement. Is that the current arrangement for different classes, for the older people and for people with disabilities and students? There is a range somewhere in there, in 20 and 30%. It would be anticipated that for moving ahead, that for those aged over 60, registered disabled, full-time students and low income, that it would be set at 33%. You're absolutely right. I think the administrative burden of dealing with various different percentages would be very difficult.
Thanks, John.
And Councillor Donnelly, please.
Thank you, Chair. Broadly, I'm supportive of the proposal of this stand. I suppose I just want to seek clarity on a particular issue. I hope you might grant me a little bit of latitude here. I received an email recently from somebody who was considering applying for, I think it was the household membership, and they were wondering why it was the case that as part of that overall package that they weren't entitled to access to the health suite. This would be in the context of Oma Leisure Centre. Now, I don't know if that's something that's covered possibly as part of the change in approach that we're talking about here, but it was something that was raised with me, and I'm wondering if there's possibly any clarity that can be offered on that.
Thank you, Councillor. John, do you want to come back to Councillor Donnelly on that issue, or do you have information tonight?
No, I have to say we're currently looking at that issue, and it's an issue that I am aware of. The reason why the health suite isn't included at this point in time is partially due to the age limit of 16. That if you have 2 adults and 2 children, which is currently in the household membership, those 2 children cannot access the health suite. And that is the regulations because of the age limit, and that is currently why it currently exists at this point in time. But it is a situation that we are currently looking at to see how we can actually resolve that.
Thank you. Is there broad agreement, members, with a proposer and seconder for this document? So we all agreed. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to item 5.2. So consider reporting the proposal for the use of social supermarket support funding from the Department for Communities, paper B.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, Chair, the purpose is to seek approval for the social supermarket funding. It is something which we have mentioned before at committee, is funding provided from the Department of Communities for funding of the community and voluntary sector organisations in support of the social supermarket pilot. And also we're proposing to appoint an external service provider to work in the co-design, and co-design is absolutely vital in this regard. Social supermarket, I think, as we have explained before in the chamber here, is a fully wraparound service. That if someone presents themselves at a food bank, that normally there are other issues that are associated with the well-being of that person, whether it be the benefits that they are on, or whether it be fuel poverty, or whether it be food poverty, or whatever. And this social supermarket is an attempt to try and provide a wraparound service so that the proper referral to the proper agencies work at that one point of time. We have been working along with DFC in getting to a model, and there are models that currently exist, but I suppose the rural nature of our district makes our district slightly different than what currently exists in the social supermarket model that is currently used in the likes of Belfast. And therefore we in December we had approval from committee for an expression of interest to the community and voluntary sector to submit funded support towards the social supermarket type activity. We had 6 submissions received at that time, and the panel recommended that 5 of those 6 go forward for funding for support of 10,000 each to the social supermarket type activities. The one that wasn't recommended, the proposal didn't target social supermarket outcomes at all. There are various different models, as I see, in other councils, and certainly what is happening in those is to appoint an external service provider to manage that co-design process with those community and voluntary sector models in the implementation of a model for our district as a whole. And that's the proposal that we're bringing forward tonight, members, in relation to it. So the recommendation is the council approves the proposed funding of 10,000 to each of the 5 community and voluntary sector organisations to support the social supermarket piling activity, and also approves the appointment of an external service provider to manage the co-design process and implementation of the social supermarket model for the district.
Thank you, John. Councillor McElduff.
Thank you, Chair. Guramayagat, Caherly, and wish you well in your year ahead in this RNC committee. And obviously, I want to welcome this report, and I would like to propose its adoption. And it's one measure, it's one good, positive measure aimed at mitigating the worst impacts of the cost of living crisis and poverty for people. So I suppose I would also say that the council has a wider duty to address the real issue of the cost of living crisis, food, fuel, and other aspects of poverty. Maybe John could detail some other measures in the course of his report that we're currently involved in or have been involved in recently as a council. I'm aware that we dispersed something like £20,000, was it last year, for a voucher scheme, till organisations, including St Vincent de Paul, to disperse appropriately. And Also, in this spoken contribution, Chair, I want to maybe seek support as Council Chair to write urgently to Deirdre Hargey, seeking as a Minister an urgent engagement with her and to discuss what the Department for Communities is doing and what they propose to do in the time ahead. I attended a meeting recently addressed by Minister Deirdre Hargey where there was a lot of extensive measures detailed, and we need to get our head around what they are and how we can best utilise them. You know, is there going to be an emergency fuel support scheme in the autumn, all that type of thing? What suite of programmes are coming down the track? And yesterday I spoke to the Minister's Special Advisor, you know, by way of teeing up such an invite and a visit. So that's it, Chair, but ultimately I'm proposing the adoption of this
Thank you.
recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you very much again, Chair, and thanks to Director John Boyle for his report. This is, to me, this is an excellent idea and it's very timely indeed. And I'm happy enough to second the recommendation as two parts. Councillor McAduff has added to that. Maybe let one of his party colleagues come in here on that one. I'm happy enough to second the recommendation that's listed, the two parts. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Kelly. Catherine. Oh, sorry.
Yep. Thanks and good luck for your year ahead. I'd like to second Bar's proposal on writing to the Minister, but I just would like to say that, you know, people that are going to be using these services, quite often their self-esteem and their well-being has been greatly diminished by the circumstances that they're enduring due to poverty and fuel poverty and food poverty and all the different poverty that is out there at the minute. And you know, the dignity of the clients that are going to be using this model needs to be central to everything that takes place within these schemes. And I just, you know, I really think that's an important component of this, as much as the money and as much as food training and stuff. So I just wanted to make sure that that is a focus. Thanks.
John, will we go to other members or did you want to come back to Councillor McElduff?
Yeah, Chair, maybe just coming in on Councillor McElduff's about what we're doing currently in relation to poverty. We have a poverty working group within the council, and we actually during the week we actually were interviewing for an anti-poverty officer who will solely look after poverty issues within our district and come up, hopefully, in working with with the poverty working group to come up with developing an action plan for poverty within our district. I suppose I have to say there's some excellent work going on by officers to address poverty at this point in time. That's not to say that there's a lot more that can be done and should be done, but it is solely dependent, I suppose, on funding at this stage. Just to make members aware, that there are two events which are organised, one on the 23rd of June in Omagh and one on the 29th of June in Fermanagh, energy cafes. And it is bringing together a number of services in order to highlight to the general population about ways in which they can serve or they can save energy. So we will have at those events the Consumer Council, Community Advice Fermanagh, the Health Improvement Team from the council itself, the Housing Executive, St Vincent de Paul, and the Sustainability section of the council at both of those sessions in Omagh Library and in Fermanagh House. And I think those are absolutely vital sessions for people, and I would like to get that out, promoted as much as possible if we possibly can. The second one, and those are for the two towns, the second event which we are actually holding are energy outreach events in more the rural communities. So we'll have the similar focus as what is held with the energy cafes, but we will have a focus on energy efficiency, on home safety, on home security, and we will have the independent advice services and whatever in the attendance in those rural areas. And we would like to hope that members would promote those, and we will certainly send the details of two members of those two events. We do a lot of programs and we work with a lot of agencies in poverty issues within our district, and there's no doubt about it that I think poverty will be an increasing theme especially as we move towards the winter. Once we get into September, October, November, what we all know about the rising price of energy, I think poverty will be a major issue within our district. The current programs in which we do, like, we have the affordable warmth scheme. Now I have to say that support for it, it was on a report in a previous committee meeting that the support, that number of referrals has reduced from 33 down to 20 for our district per month. And that will affect the number who will gain support. But we have other things such as the boiler replacement scheme, and we do help people very much so in support with our benefits and the referrals for benefits to Social Security and so on. We work with schools with the Fair Share scheme. In last year, we provided some substantial funding for Fair Share in order to provide support for food in schools. We have the slow cooker scheme. We have support for our advice centres, and we have the warm winter packs, which are actually a fantastic scheme, which is funded from the PHA, which we distribute to partners. I suppose for the future about what we can do, certainly funding is needed in order to make a cash difference. Members will be aware of the cost of living support, which has been announced by government in relation to those who are on low wages, those who are on disabilities and so on, of the funding that is coming in June and October and throughout the winter months, the £650 payments and the £300 winter allowance for the elderly, the additional allowance. But I think we will be in a year where we are in serious need. And I welcome the suggestion from Councillor McElduff in order to write to the Minister. I think if we had an emergency fuel voucher scheme, we did provide somewhere in the region of 20,000 to St Vincent de Paul last year. I don't think 20,000 will look at the need in this financial year. But we do need support from the Department for Communities in relation to that. And we do need further support from government in relation to. So whilst we are doing some good work in relation to poverty, I think there is much more that needs to be done in order to meet the needs of our residents in the district.
Thanks for that update, John. Councillor Bale.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, John, for outlining that. And I completely agree with you. I do think this cost of living crisis is just going to keep on going and get worse and worse. I welcome, like the other councillors, welcome what was proposed here. I do think it'll help a lot to alleviate concerns throughout our district. And I also welcome Councillor McElduff's proposal. I know this council has made a few suggestions to the Communities Minister, which unfortunately, some of them have been implemented now, but others, like the Fuel Poverty Task Force, which myself and my colleague Councillor Armstrong raised here, and we've discussed a few times, have been implemented. So it would be great to engage with the Minister and ask those sorts of questions. I was in with a constituent today, and before I came in, she was sat at our dinner table working out how much it'll cost to heat her home over Christmas, and she was worried. I could tell by looking at her, she was worried, and I can't imagine she's the only person across our district in that situation now. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor O'Coffey.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Obviously, we do need action, urgent action. What has been proposed here is markedly different from what has happened elsewhere in Northern Ireland. The first tranche of funding involved 70,000 going to, I think it was 5 different centres, which then acted as social supermarkets. My understanding is that the department defined a social supermarket as something that would give people access to food on condition that they take up the other services that will help them move out of poverty. I don't know if that's an accurate definition, but what we are seeing here is a very different model. I'm just concerned maybe that there's something that is not happening because we are allocating money to various community voluntary organizations to provide, like the likes of human resources advice and training sessions towards employability and so on. The model, I think, in other social supermarkets is that people tend to enroll either for £5 or £2 a month or week, and then they receive a huge basket of foods. They also get this wraparound services and all that. Is that going to happen in this? Is there going to be like an enrollment model for people? Because the idea of a social supermarket is a supermarket that sells you food at a discounted price and then has all these social services around it and provisions and additions. But I'm just really wondering about, is this going to enable people to purchase at a steep discount food from these 5 beneficiary groups and community organizations? The final question is really around the issue of the Clinton Center, which was refused. And I do recall a number of years ago, there was some suggestions that there might be a soup kitchen operating out of the Clinton Center, because I think that's what's needed. But is there any, was that what was being proposed there? Is it likely that the Clinton Center is a soup kitchen, or was that something that was ruled out of order? Thank you, Chair.
Just, Chair, in relation to the model of delivery, I think in a sense where social supermarkets have been established at this point in time, we are slightly different than those. I did actually go and visit one of them in Strabane, and it was an excellent facility, I have to say, and the range of activities which took place, and the way that they dealt with people was really, really good. I suppose the difficulty that we have is that we are not Strabane. We have a largely rural population, and it is more difficult to establish a social supermarket in that sort of setting. And what this proposal is doing is to try and provide that model which works for us. So whilst Councillor Coffey, yes, you're absolutely correct in the type of services that social supermarkets provide, it is trying to find the appropriate model which will work for our rural community largely. That is important here. And the purpose of appointing an external service provider is to actually co-design that model which actually works for us and will get us the greatest outcomes in relation to it. So what we are trying to do at this stage is to build the model. And what that looks like in the future, we will certainly be bringing it back to committee here for members for approval.
Okay, thank you, John. And Councillor Armstrong.
Thank you, Chair. And it's just really a response. Councillor Kelly raised the issue about confidentiality, and I can assure you that I'm familiar with the courthouse in Kesh with their food bank, and that very impressed the way that the discretion is assured, that dealing with rural debt, dealing with food banks, that I think these 5 successful applicants all have the ability to do that. And I think maybe it's something that we can be sure is guaranteed when the programmes are being advertised. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Thornton.
Thank you, Chair. I'm very much in favour of the social supermarket. I just wanted to query that there's 5 groups getting £10,000 each, which is 50,000, and we have 47,378 remaining from what we've been allocated. Is that all going into recommendation 2, or is there still a surplus after all this is completed? That's a question for John, please.
Thank you. Yeah, Chair, largely that will be going into recommendation 2 in providing the model. Now, that's not to say that it will all go to that external provider, but it will go in working up proposals along with groups in order to provide that model. So there will be testing of the model, there will be working with groups and providing funding for those groups for that co-design process.
Thank you. Councillor Anne-Marie Donnelly.
Thank you, Chair, and best of luck in your year ahead, Mark.
Thank you.
John, it's really a question in relation to the 5 groups that have been successful. I'm just conscious that 4 of them are in the Fermanagh area and only 1 is in Omagh. And obviously it's dependent on who has applied in terms of expressions of interest. But given, that there's 40,000 going to the Fermanagh area and only 10 going to the Omagh area, is there any way of increasing the funding for the OMA sector there so that it's true reflection of the funding that's available? You know, it seems that, well, they're losing out really in terms of how the funding's been allocated. Fantastic initiative, but I just think that OMA are losing out a little bit here when they're only getting 10,000 and 40,000 is going to the Fermanagh area. It's just to make sure, because there's obviously, you know, a lot of issues in terms of poverty for the community, and we want to make sure that the best resources are put in place and the support that we can do, you know, if there's any possibility that could be increased at all. And the other thing I was going to ask John is that if we still have time, you know, the magazine that goes around to every home, that we should highlight all the good work that we're doing to support the community for cost of living issues, all the things that you've highlighted and all the different programs that are in place, to, you know, bring them to people's attention so that they know what to ask for or to look for whenever they're making contact with the council, if they're seeking support, or to be signposted to the appropriate agencies.
Thank you, Councillor Donnelly.
Yeah.
Come on there, John.
Yeah, Chair, just I suppose on the 2 points, what I would probably rather see than increase the 10,000 for the social supermarket type activities to the one application that was successful. I would probably rather see the external service provider trying to widen that out into the rural communities in the OMA area of our district. The one that was successful is in Omagh town, and but I would rather see it that it was extended further. So I think what we will do is with the external service providers is try and work with other communities and other organisations in the rural part in order to extend that money out to those areas. In relation to the magazine, it's just funny that we had a discussion today about promoting what we're doing, because when you actually do sit down and see what we are doing in relation to poverty at this point in time, you know, it is quite extensive, and it is funny enough, it is something that we discussed today about how we get it out on social media and how we get it out through other forms in order to tell the people about what exactly we're doing, and also in relation to the two events, or the cafe and the other information event, that we need to promote that widely so that it is open and accessible to as many people as we possibly can make it.
Thanks, Sean, for that. Councillor Deehan.
Sorry, Mark, can I just come back quickly on
Very
that?
quickly, just Anne-Marie, please.
Just very briefly, and it's just the term energy cafe. I don't think the public might understand what that actually means. I think we need to be really clear when we're promoting that as to what that is. You know, I know it's catchy, but to the ordinary person, will they know what that means? That that's about, you know, how to access, or, you know, for fuel poverty, and how to access better services in terms of their electricity or whatever. You know, I think it needs to be clear what exactly is being promoted.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe when we're putting that on, John, we can include that information. Maybe
Yes,
that's the best way.
certainly when we're promoting it. I think energy is such a valid topic at this point in time. Like, I think energy needs to be there, you know, in getting people's attention. But certainly when we're promoting it, it will be very upfront as to what the whole thing is about.
Thank you, John.
Councillor Deehan.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, John, for your very comprehensive report, and also for clarification regarding, you know, what is being proposed, the co-design of the model so that it fits to the needs of our population. And I think it is good, as Councillor Anne-Marie Donnelly states, to highlight all the good work that this council is doing to try to relieve the pressure on people, to relieve those concerns as far as possible. I think this is a good initiative from Minister Hargey, and I do want to welcome it. But Chair, I do agree with John that we are very concerned about the challenges that lie ahead, particularly going into the winter months. And I support Councillor McElduff's proposal. I mean, really, we do need a voucher scheme. 20,000 will not suffice. We need to really look at that and try to roll it out as fairly and as extensively as possible. Councillor Catherine Kelly made the point about respect for the individual and protecting their confidentiality and personal dignity. And I totally support that. I mean, people are very private about their financial affairs, and it is difficult to come forward and acknowledge that you're in need. One of my concerns in terms of the whole social supermarket model is that, yes, it will alleviate food poverty, but there is kind of an implication in terms of the wider issues and the wraparound services, in terms of budgeting and debt management and employability. There seems to be kind of a hidden message there that people are somehow to blame for their poverty, and that couldn't be farther from the truth, Chair. And I know that is not the intention of the social supermarket model, but we really need to provide public reassurance that this cost of living crisis, it has not been made by individual members of our community. It's something that has arisen through a variety of adverse circumstances, and that our role really is to protect and support people. But overall, Chair, I want to welcome the fund and add my voice of support to it, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Eamon Keenan.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, well, I would also have mixed feelings. It's positive, yes, that we're taking action on poverty locally, but I'm disappointed that seems to be the solution. There's no sign of tackling what I would say is the real causes of poverty, which is low wages. The energy companies being totally unregulated, that are exploiting all of us on the unfair tax system. But I suppose it is something, and it's trying to patch up the problems that's been caused. And that one question I do have: how long do we foresee these social supermarkets being funded for? And is that stream of funding going to be sufficient to cover the costs, the extent of the people that actually need it? Which seems to be a lot of people who are going to be relying on these sort of things. It's very disappointing that a lot of people in our communities now are going to be relying on social supermarkets, St Vincent de Paul, and one-off handouts in this day and age. But I suppose to patch things up with these sort of things, it has to be done. But we need to look at the deeper problem: unregulated energy companies, an unequal tax system, and low wages, in my view. But we can only do what we can do. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll get an answer for that. Councillor Kelly, do you have a quick comment, just please?
Yeah, I just wanted to agree with Councillor Deehan. She said it much better than I did. When I said about dignity, that's exactly what I was referring to. I see it in a problem in there too. While this programme is really, really welcome, there is a hint in there of blaming the victim of poverty. This debt management and teaching people is appropriate, but I would hope it's done in a very appropriate, non-condescending manner when people are at their lowest ebb in life. So I just wanted to agree and thank Councillor Deehan for stating that better than I did. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Seamus Green.
Thank you, Chair. Just on the whole poverty situation that people are going through, I seem to remember a paper that John brought to us a couple of months ago around a warm home scheme, where there was a cap on the amount of referrals that the council could actually use. I'm not sure there's that the Department of Communities or whatever has implemented that cap, or was it just down to the amount of resources was given? I think at this time of fuel poverty, it's one of the worst times possible to put a cap on referrals, and I would like that to be raised with the Minister if we do get the Minister down. In fact, I think possibly a letter to the department should be sent pointing this out, that of all times to put a cap on referrals and to come up short on funding for the Warmer Home Scheme, which is a brilliant scheme, but not being used near enough because of lack of resources. I believe that's a vital cog in people's armour to actually protect themselves against fuel poverty in the wintertime with no heating in their home or whatever. So I would propose that we do write that letter. Just one other thing too, we're talking about Stormont, £340 million ready to spend if the executive's up and running, or possibly 500 million. Does anyone know whether it's 340 or 500 million? I suspect it's 500 million and rising. And at this time, it's absolutely disgraceful that the people has been held to ransom around this. So maybe John could comment on.
Thank you, Councillor Green. Okay, John, there was a query from Councillor Keane there as well.
Yeah, Chair, yeah, Councillor Keenan's how long will they be funded for the social supermarkets? I suppose it is an evolving situation. It's a new model in a sense, and it has been trialled in a number of council areas. And I suppose how long will it's unknown how long they will be funded for. I know the social supermarket which I visited is actually working towards self-sustainability. And you talk about dignity and everything, and absolutely correctly. But one of the initiatives which they have is they opened a cafe where open to the general public. You can walk into your cafe and buy your cup of tea or whatever, and out the back there is the social supermarket model. So that dignity is preserved because the general public are using it. And yet that cafe is self-sustainable, is helping to self-sustain the social supermarket model. So that is what we mean when we're talking about bringing in expertise in order to develop a model for our district here. I think it's all those sorts of ideas that need to be explored. Just in relation to Councillor Green's with the cap on referrals, yes, the cap has actually reduced, and Councillor Green's absolutely correct. In a previous report which I brought to committee, it has reduced from 33 referrals per month to 20 referrals per month. Quite a significant reduction, and I think it will have an impact on the fuel poverty issues in our district for the rest of the year.
Okay, thank you, members. We have the recommendation proposed by Councillor McElduff, seconded by Councillor Thompson. We all agreed. And then we have a proposal from Councillor McElduff, and that was seconded by Councillor Kelly, that we asked for a meeting with Minister Hargey. Now, we had a request then from Councillor Green about a letter to the Minister around this cap on referrals. Could that be tied in with Councillor McElduff and Councillor Kelly's letter as well? All right, thank you. You're all agreed on that, members? Thank you. Move on to item 5.3 is to consider a report on application process for the Landfill Communities Fund, paper C.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, the Landfill Community Fund is a tax credit scheme which enables operators of landfill sites to provide a proportion of the landfill tax liability to community and environmental organisations to fund projects. And as a council, we have made use of the Landfill Community Fund on many occasions to fund various projects. The landfill site at Dermee equates to approximately 30 to 35,000 per quarter of landfill tax credit for the district. It is regulated by Entrust, who was appointed in 2016, and further the applications must be submitted to an environmental body, and the environmental body for this area is Ulster Wildlife, and we provide an application to Ulster Wildlife, and Ulster Wildlife then send it on to Entrust to assess as to whether it's applicable or not. The issue in relation to it is that the council in the past are the body who have nearly 100% of the time, and I'm not saying holistically, but nearly 100% of the time made applications to Ulster Wildlife in order for use of the monies. And it is proposed that we would open that out to external organisations and external applicants to have a full and transparent use of the monies, so that there would be an annual call for expressions of interest to check eligibility and for them to submit a grant application form to Ulster Wildlife. That they would be submitted to Ulster Wildlife and they would be assessed against the criteria and ranked. And then Ulster Wildlife would issue letters of offer and liaise directly with the project leads regarding the claims and the reports and so on that would be required. It's in order for the proposals for the guidelines, it would propose that the maximum awarded would be 60,000 for £60,000, which would be roughly less than a half, and now that would be a maximum application, but it would only be funded at 75% of the total project cost of any one individual project. It is proposed that we would start that expression of interest process in September of 2022, and the expression of interest and the assessment process being complete by the end of January 23. So, Chair, it is proposed that the Council approves the new application process for the Landfill Community Fund to open it up to more community organisations.
Thank you, John. We've seen the recommendation, members. Can we move to an approval, please? By proposer. Councillor Howard Thornton, hand up.
Yes, Chair, I'm very happy to propose this. Just one question for John. With regard to the closure of Drummy, which is in a couple of years' time, as a landfill site, does this fund continue to carry on, or has it got a lifespan for the lifespan of the landfill?
It has a lifespan of the tax credits depending on the amount of waste that you put into Drummy, so it will have a lifespan up until mid to late 2024.
Thank you for that, John.
Okay, thank you, Chair. I'm quite happy to propose.
Seconder, members, for the Councillor O'Coffey. Thank you, and all agreed. Thank you for that, members. We'll move on now to 5.4 to consider a report on events and festivals 2022 to 23, and that's paper D.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. There are a number of elements in relation to the events and festivals report. One is to update following the event strategy working group and the minutes of those are included in Appendix 1 and 2 of the report. To seek approval for the recommendations from the second call of sponsorship towards third-party organised events and festivals for this year, and those details are included in Appendix 3. To seek approval to proceed with the Summer Saturdays events in Omagh and Enniskillen, included at Appendix 9. To note the preferred option for Christmas Lights Festival, which is included at Appendix 7, and to note the St Patrick's Day Omagh and Enniskillen event impact assessment, which was presented to the Event Strategy Working Group, which is included at Appendix 8. Just moving on to the sponsorship, there were a number of sponsorship recommendations which have been made. There were 3 major events which were assessed, which were requests of more than 10,000, and they were required to present at the Event Strategy Working Group. One was on Live at the Castle events taking place from the 1st to the 31st of August 2022. The second was in relation to the Grand Orange Lodge, who give a presentation on the public events which are taking place as part of the process in July in 2022. And thirdly, the Arts Over Borders, who give a presentation on the 10th anniversary of the Beckett Festival from the 22nd to the 30th of July. In terms of, just to draw members' attention to the presentation from the Orange Lodge, it notes there that it should be noted that consensus wasn't reached. It isn't a case that consensus wasn't reached, but I think what was agreed was that further information would be sought, and there would be another event strategy working group that would be taking place in the next week. And our report will be brought to the July RNC meeting for consideration. In relation to the Summer Saturdays events, it's highlighted that events in Omagh will take place over a 4-week period during July, which will require partial street closure of Market Street in Omagh. There have been engagement with town centre businesses, and I know some members have been contacted by businesses in relation to that. But it will, for this year, replace the Grange Festival, which is held at Grange Park, but due to the construction works which are taking place at Grange Park, that festival can't take place in Omagh this year. The Live and Local in Enniskillen here will take place also in a 4-week period in July at the Diamond in Enniskillen. And the Hats Off to Fort Hill, which is the annual celebration in Fort Hill, will take place on Friday the 29th of July. The members of the Event Strategy Working Group also consider the Christmas Lights Festival. Members will be aware of the events in the last number of years not having taken place due to the pandemic. And there were a number of options this year with the opening up of COVID regulations, and it was decided, it was agreed that to deliver a switch-on event in Omagh and Enniskillen with live and local musicians and street entertainment, Christmas illuminations and installations and static building projections over a 4-week period. There is, again, a further report to be brought to the July Event Strategy Working Group in relation to this because of the financial implications that it will have, and a further decision will be taken at next month's RNC, because we do need to be making arrangements for the Christmas events for the lighting. So therefore, Chair, it is recommended that the Council notes the draft minutes and actions and recommendations of the Event Strategy Working Group of the 12th of April and the 16th of May, that it approves the recommendations for the support of the second call sponsorship model for the third-party organised events and festivals, that it approves the recommendations for the Summer Saturday 22 events to proceed, notes that option 3 for the Lights Festival 22 is the preferred option, subject to budget availability and a report being brought back to committee here, and notes the St Patrick's Day Omagh and Enniskillen event impact assessment presentation.
There we have it, members. Thank you, John, for that. Councillor McElduff.
Hey, thank you, Chair. I have 3 questions. Don't have a proposal to make or a second, I don't think, but just 3 questions. One would be in relation to Christmas. Are we discontinuing what has been, the case for the past few years, past couple of years anyway, of those illuminations of certain buildings, that went on repeatedly? Are we discontinuing that, and why? Was it not a success? Are we fixing something that isn't broken, in that case? So that's one question. 2, do you see events? I know the council likes, obviously, a long lead-in period, but what if a community group only discovered the existence of support for events, had a big event coming in 2 or 3 weeks' time? Can they get support, if they apply beforehand? The way it used to be, as long as you didn't apply after the event. But I think there's a preference now towards a long lead-in time, to get organised. And finally, on the summer Saturdays in Omagh and Enniskillen, and for example in Omagh, the partial closure of Market Street, I have been lobbied by a few businesses who are concerned. Obviously I'm supportive of the summer Saturdays and the attempts by the council to breathe life into our main towns and the district as a whole. But when you hear these concerns, I suppose I'm seeking reassurance that they will be properly engaged with those people and maybe given some promotional compensation or platforms to succeed on the day, that type of thing. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Do you want to go to them 3 questions, Sean? Now?
Chair, are we discontinuing the illuminations? Certainly the illuminations that we saw at the courthouse in Omagh and indeed here in Enniskillen, they are expensive. And if we want to provide something that was akin to what was prior to the pandemic, that is certainly not budgeted for to have both. So I suppose the report that has been brought back to the Event Strategy Working Group here next week will make a recommendation as to, or will be open for members to decide as to which direction to go in. And that's not to say that we won't have an illumination that is toned down, that isn't as big as what was in previous years. But I do think to have both financially would be very, very challenging for us as an organisation. In relation to the events and the long lead-in period, I suppose if a community organisation are planning for an event, it does require long lead-in periods now. There are various, if we are supporting a group in order to take part in a large event, then there are numerous health and safety concerns. There are numerous agreements which must be put in place, and they can't be put in place in a matter of weeks. So if an organisation, if a community organisation wishes to hold what they would term a large event, certainly they need to be planning it, and they need to be talking to us in the council if they're looking for support in over a longer period of time than just a number of weeks, because of the requirement. And members will appreciate the stringent legislative responsibilities that are in relation to, especially in relation to health and safety and all of those sorts of issues in running events. And if we support an event, then we must make sure that all those regulations are adhered to, and that's the one element that really requires it to have that long lead-in period. The summer Saturdays issue. There are mixed feelings, I have to say, in Oma in relation to summer Saturdays and the closure of the streets and so on, and I know members are aware of that. We have some very positive feedback from traders in relation to it, and we have some that is not very supportive of it. But I can assure members that engagement is continuing to take place with the traders in order to come to a resolution as to the way forward.
Okay, thank you for that answering them. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you very much again, Chair, and thanks to Director John Boyle for his clarification with regard to 2.2.3 and the final paragraph regarding the consensus issue. I think it's important that that was clarified this evening as we move forward in that. And I also wanted to declare an interest as a member of the Event Strategy Working Group. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, Councillor Bell.
Thank you, Chair. I just have suppose it's a bit of a question, a bit of a concern to raise on the partial street closure in Market Street, Oma. Or around St. Patrick's Day, there was a partial street closure, and I was lobbied by a business shortly afterwards that they said they weren't aware of it, but I would say it's more likely that they were told and they forgot about it. So I think when the engagement with these groups is being done is important, because obviously if you were to do it now, the last thing a business wants when they have a million other things going on is to, in the example of the case I was given, they had a delivery booked, and unfortunately the delivery couldn't get into the business because of the festivities going on around St. Patrick's Day. So I suppose the suggestion that I'm making is if when the engagement is going on, have maybe a reminder shortly before the street is closed, or have the engagement closer to it, just in case a few businesses do forget, because there's a million other things going on when you're running a business. So thank you, Chair.
We can take that on board, John. Yeah.
Yeah, Chair, just in relation to the engagement, we've had face-to-face engagement with 23 town centre businesses in the Oma area. I have to say, for the most part, the feedback has been positive. Now, there are some which you realise, has been slightly negative. We've also done a survey of, it's gone out to 200 plus businesses. And whilst the response hasn't been massive at this stage, we would expect it, coming up to the period, and we are nearly at that period where businesses need to be aware. We are talking about it in July of this year. So we are inherently and always trying to undertake that engagement, and we are continuing to engage with the businesses in order to make sure that we can both benefit from the activities.
Thank you. Councillor Armstrong.
Thank you, Chair. And John, thank you for your report. I'm very, very supportive of the Summer Live and local festivals, but I just wanted to ask a question on outdoor performance of music, whether the Roundel and Fort Hill Bandstand could be included in the resource implications in doing that, because I know outdoor theatre, there's a programme coming up in the district too, and just the appetite for that within the tourism sector, it's a very positive thing for tourism, and also whether Grange Park, which is undergoing works at the moment in Arliston, could also be considered other outdoor performing spaces for music.
You, Councillor. John, do you?
Yeah, just in relation to the Roundel and Fort Hill. It is something that we are currently in the process of considering and seeing if we can get outdoor performances in there. So certainly I would like to think that by July here, we will either take a report through committee here in relation to that as to what we've achieved, if we can get outdoor performances to operate there. And same, we will take a look at Arleston also.
Thank you. Kim, take a word there.
Yes, if I could maybe just make a comment on the summer Saturdays, and I think it's important that we trial initiatives to revitalise town centres and to try new and varied uses of town centres. And this is something that has become very evident in terms of the vitality of town centres as places. And the High Streets Task Force report has identified the need to try different approaches. So I think that this approach is really part of a pilot scheme to test a model and to look at how we can use events to revitalise town centres as well. And I suppose part of that is that if people are in the town centre for an event, that increases the dwell time and increases the opportunities to shop and to pass shops. So there will be an evaluation carried out as part of this work as well around the impacts on town centres.
Thank you, Kim. We have Councillor Stevenson.
Thank you, Chair. Just to declare an interest in this one under County Fermanagh Grand Orange Lodge.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Warrington.
Well, I was actually just going to come in to propose the recommendations as listed. Thank you.
That's great, thank you. And have we a seconder, members? Councillor McLaughlin, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
All agreed.
I wonder, could you give me a little bit of latitude, Chair?
Very quickly, Councillor, because we have a big agenda ahead now, so.
Yeah, I wondered if the officer could have a look. I've had a couple of community groups saying that they've been contacted that they've had a change to digital bank accounts, and then the print offs. There's been a query over the print offs because they're no longer getting paper. It costs, I think, either £8 a quarter or £8 a month to have bank statements posted out. But if you just get them digitally, but the digital ones are just printed off a computer. They do give the similar information, but they're just not on the fancy paper that the banks use. And I'm wondering if that's possible that the payments branch can take that into account, because obviously not all groups now have banks in their local areas either. They have to travel a distance to get them officially stamped, apparently, from their banks. So I was wondering if the officer could have a look at that.
You'll have a look at that, John. Thank you. All agreed, members? Okay. 5.5 is to consider report of the Director of Community and Wellbeing. That's John's report, paper E.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, there are a number of elements to this. One is to seek approval to enter into a partnership with Southwest Age Partnership for the next 4 years, 2022 to 26. SWAP, support the delivery of the age-friendly communities programme within the district, and the total allocation towards the age-friendly comes from the PHA to ourselves, and it's proposed that the council would enter into a partnership agreement with SWAP for 6,550 per annum for the 4 years, to include a percentage uplift each year. A further 5,000 is provided towards administrative funding for the older people's group to SWAP. The second element is to seek approval to provide a financial contribution to Outdoor Recreation NI to deliver the associated Walk NI marketing activity on behalf of the council. This is something that we do on an annual basis. Orny has identified FODC as a regional partner, along with a number of other district councils, and has proposed that the council contribute £3,617 towards the ongoing marketing and website promotion of those walk-in routes. Thirdly, it is to seek approval for an additional 21,000 and almost £97 from the landfill community funds for work at Lockview Drive, the Mugga at Lockview Drive. Members will be aware that previously we had got approval for the project to apply to the landfill community funds for almost 31,000. However, the actual cost following the recent tendering process has come in at 52,000. Now, yes, that's a substantial increase. When what the report we brought through was, I think it was in April 2021. And by the time we got out to tender for it and going through our procurement processes, it was almost September, and which time the weather changed and we couldn't actually undertake the work. And so we had to re-tender this year, and it has come in, and that is due solely to the cost increases, especially in the type of surface that it is, the polymeric surfaces that is in the Muggles. The fourth element is seeking approval to host a chairman's reception for German pupils and an exchange visit to Enniskillen, and also providing them with free entry to a number of the council visitor attractions. This used to be an annual event for pupils to come to Enniskillen. And so they are requesting, and I think historically the chairman held a reception for them. And also that we did provide free entry tours to Enniskillen Museum, Marble Arch Caves, Coles Monument, and a free swim voucher. These pupils are staying with host families in the district. The fifth element is to consider officer attendance at the UK Age Friendly Conference in 2022. All costs are covered by the conference organisers, and it's proposed that 2 officers would attend the conference. And lastly, to consider correspondence from Clogher Valley Rugby Football Club to provide a letter of support for a funding application to the Levelling Up Fund for the development of a community hub at their current facilities. Members may have been in attendance at Clogher Valley when they give us a presentation, or give the council members a presentation at an informal meeting in relation to the development of their football club. They have asked for a letter of support from the Levelling Up Fund. Members will also be aware that in last month that I brought a report through in relation to the development of the Fermanagh Lakeland Forum, and to make an application to the Levelling Up Fund for that project. And it may not be appropriate to support another application because it is a competitive process, and to put in an application yourself, and whilst supporting another application may be confusing to the funders. Therefore, it's suggested that the club, that we wish the club well in their application, and we will actually continue to work with them in trying to find source of funding for their project. So, Chair, I think the recommendations are there.
We've got the recommendations. So, before us, members, Councillor O'Coffey.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I'm happy to propose these recommendations. I think, in particular, I want to welcome the continued commitment to restore the surface of the Mugga at Lockview Drive. That's a matter of considerable concern to the community there. Vital facility and quite a lot of investment that's never really been utilised as a result of the poor quality surface that's installed. I'm happy with the other recommendations. I think it makes eminent sense not to have to endorse a competitor application, unfortunately, but perhaps there's another way we can help the rugby club advance their cause. In relation to, there was one issue around the Mugga. Next door to that, there is a play park, which I know we maintain in Lockview Drive. There's also one in Lockview Drive. The condition on that play park is quite poor. I think I sent photographs about a year ago on it. I'm wondering if that could be addressed, but also while I'm here, I'm speaking about that, there's actually a play park in Kilmaccormick, where there's still glass residues in that, and I think that needs to be looked at as a priority. It's something I have raised a few times, but if there could be some action on that if possible. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks for that. And Councillor Armstrong.
Chair, I'm happy to second the recommendations, and just wanted to ask regarding the Bielefeld visit. It goes back to the time when there was a twinning arrangement, and that's no longer in place. Just wondered if we could, at a future point, John, please have a report on current plans to reinvigorate new twinning partnerships. There was a visit to Portugal prior to COVID, so it's just to see where the council is going, pursuing twinning with other international countries. Thank you.
You, we all agreed with that, members. Are you your response for Councillor O'Coffey just on that? You can report that to the play park team, maybe them. On that.
I think John News has responded to Councillor O'Coffey in relation to the query of the play park at Lockview Drive. I think it was in relation. It was there were proposals brought at the Environmental Services meeting in relation to year 2 of consultations, and it will be part of that process.
Okay. all agreed, members. Councillor Rainey, just checking if I wanted on, we're not sure.
Well, I meant to come in to second that, but I certainly want to support it, and in particular to support Councillor Armstrong's proposal for the twinning that we had perhaps shelved somewhere over the effect of COVID. I think that would be very useful to bring that back on board. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for that. Yep, it's a very worthwhile thing now, is twinning. We will move on, members. Thank you for that. To item 6. And there's 9 reports for decision before us on this agenda item, members, so just bear that in mind as we go through, please. 6.1 is to consider business case report, and that's over to Kim.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. So the report on business case assessment deals with an update on 2 business cases, both related to greenways. The first is the Balik to Castle Caldwell Greenway, and the business case is identified that this is economically viable and feasible, and it's recommended that approval is given to apply to DFI for funding to progress to design stage and subsequently to appoint a design team, that staff begin to engage with landowners and community engagement commences, and that we also engage with key stakeholders such as Donegal County Council and Waterways Ireland to explore the potential on a cross-border basis and examine if funding is available. The second is the Greenway from Enniskillen to Clones, which is 36 kilometres in length, and the outline EA established that we really, due to the extent of this, we need a more detailed feasibility study to allow us to complete the EA to the level of detail which is required on this one. So it's recommended that further detailed feasibility is taken considering potential routes, landowners to be consulted, and providing detail on the surveys that need to be completed with high-level costs for the project, and that we also begin engagement with Monaghan County Council to discuss the opportunities for cross-border collaboration. So the recommendation is that the Council approves the proposed approach in respect to the Greenway projects listed in sections 2.2 and 2.3.
Thank you, Kim. Councillor Feely.
Yes, thank you, Chair, and I want to wish you best luck in the year ahead as well for you. Yeah, I just want to say a few words on 2.2 there, from Leak to Castle Caldwell. I know it's a project that myself and Councillor Curry was working on. We had a few meetings with people in Ballyshannon and stuff about it. I was hoping to get a cross-border one from Ballyshannon to Bleak and Bleak to Castle Caldwell. So I'm good to see that there's some progress being made on it here. I know that a feasible study was back in 2017. It's a very slow kind of well, it's good progress. Like it's not coming great speed, but it's good to get it this far. And I was just great to see that they're going to be talking with DFA and Donegal County Council, because in fact we have discussed that on our meetings with Fermanagh and Omagh and Donegal County Council. So just welcome it, and I'll be happy to propose it.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you.
And Councillor Irvine.
Thank you very much, Mark. No, I'm happy to second both proposals, but I have a few comments to make. One, I think, and it's a recurring element. I know that greenways and other forest parks and everything like that are tying into our community health and well-being issues under a community plan, and that is extremely good and to be welcome. What I would like to see in any of these capital projects going forward, that recognition is made of the revenue tail that's going to follow after them in regard to maintenance, upkeep and supervision, and that if that can be taken into account in the capital project and see if there is revenue, recurrent revenue stream that can be tied into them as well coming down. All well and good, doing as much capital as you want. The unfortunate thing is the maintenance issue will fall back ultimately to the council, and that's going to fall onto the ratepayers, and it's going to get bigger the more we do. The second thing in regard to the Clones Greenway, we're tied in with the Ulster Canal too as well, which is another project. Would one of the options on that route be part of the route following along the canal as well? Because why are we going to do 2 different routes that basically both to a certain extent have common shared purpose and outcomes? So I would like to see the route running down the canal route as an option to be looked at when you're looking at the viability of it. But happy enough to second.
Thanks for that second, Robert. Are you happy?
Yeah,
to take
I'm
that,
happy to second you.
on board, Kim, as well. Thank you. Okay, members, that's proposed and seconded. Councillor Anne-Marie Donnelly.
Thanks, Chair. I just missed declaring an interest in this item as an
Oh,
employee
no
of
problem.
Railways Ireland. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you. And Councillor Coyle.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just I would like to welcome 2.2, a project close to my own heart, and would like to see it delivered. And I fully committed to the recommendations for the go to DFA and engage with landowners and other stakeholders. So it'll be very welcome for the community. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Warrington.
Yeah, well, it's just again to support it. Obviously, it's something as part of the Ballybay, Clonus Ballybay Ernie's partnership. It's something that's been discussed at the moment as well. So just to welcome this as we move on. Thank you.
Thank you. And Catherine, Councillor Kelly.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I welcome the Greenway proposals, and you know, they're very important to encourage people to walk and exercise. Unfortunately, the proposal for the Carrickmore to Omagh Greenway was turned down recently, and I must say that my community were very, very disappointed that this didn't go any further. So just want to put that on record. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All agreed on that report, members. Thank you. 6.2 now, members, is to consider the report on grant aid round and rolling call for the Community Services Project Development and Seeding Grant, paper G. Kim.
Thanks, Chair. So this report is to seek approval of the recommendations of the E-panel, granted E-panel meeting on the 31st of May. And this relates to the second grant call for 22 to 23 and the rolling call in respect of Community Services Project Development and Seeding Grant Aid. And it also seeks that members note the grant aid allocations up to a maximum of £500 in respect of that call as well. We, through the call outlined, we have looked at 114 grants received and assessed, and total funding of just over 67,000 is proposed for award. And it's recommended approval of the recommendations of the E-panel meeting held on the 31st of May, and that the awards approved by the relevant head of service up to £500 are noted.
Thank you. Councillor Bell.
Thank you, Chair. Just a declared interest as a member of one of these groups. Thank you.
No problem. Okay, members, anyone can propose this for us, please? Councillor Anne-Marie Donnelly. Are you happy to propose yet? And a seconder, please?
You're happy to propose.
Thank you. Councillor O'Coffey, did you, or Councillor? Thanks, Councillor O'Coffey, that's great. And all agreed, members. Okay. Item 6.3 is to consider update report on various tourism development initiatives, paper H.
Okay, so this report deals with a range of tourism development initiatives. The first is a contribution to Mountain Bike NI Marketing Consortium, and this follows on from agreement last year to approve a contribution to the consortium, and this relates to promotion of mountain bike trails at Gortin Glens. There is information attached to the report which outlines the activity, and it's proposed to continue the support and focusing the marketing activity on two key objectives: to increase the number of visits to each trail centre and grow the contribution to the local economy. The financial contribution required is £6,300, which covers core activity and then a joint campaign in the Republic of Ireland. Second part of the report relates to Fermanagh Lakeland tourism, and at last month's committee meeting, members agreed an additional contribution of £15,000 towards FLT's marketing plan for the current financial year, which brings our total contribution for this year to £110,000 for marketing of Fermanagh Lakelands, alongside their income from membership fees, which amounts to £35,000. It's requested that officers explore with FLT opportunities to meet their remaining funding shortfall, which currently stands at £15,000, and to bring a report back to this committee. We have engaged with FLT, and it hasn't been possible to confirm any additional funding sources. So the options are to review the marketing activity plan to align with the available budget for the current year. The request still stands for the council to meet the additional shortfall of £15,000, but just to note that the current tourism development budget for this year is fully allocated, and any contribution beyond the 15,000 agreed last month would have an impact on other planned activities in this financial year. The third part of the report relates to the giant sculpture, which is nearing completion on the summit of Mullacarn. And there is some concern due to the isolated location that there may be potential for vandalism at this at the sculpture. And in order to, I suppose, protect the council's investment, we have been speaking to the PSNI, who have a communications mast adjacent to the sculpture, and an offer has been made to fix a CCTV camera on the communications mast, which would be focused on the sculpture, and that would be at no cost to the council. And it's considered that that would be a prudent step for the council. And finally, the RTPI Awards for Planning Excellence. We submitted an application to the awards in the category for Excellence in Planning for Health and Wellbeing. And I'm pleased to confirm that the council submission for Gortin Glens Forest Park won the award, which was held on the 9th of June, and that the application will also now go forward to the RTPI finals in London on the 30th of November. In terms of financial implications, we have appropriate budgetary provision for the mountain bike NI activity within the budget. And as I've mentioned, there are currently insufficient resources within our budget to accommodate the remaining £15,000 marketing shortfall identified by Fermanagh Lakeland Tourism. Currently in our budget, we have two £5,000 allocations identified for a tourism ambassador programme and for potential tourism feasibility studies in the current year, which come to an amount of £10,000. There is potential if members wish to consider to reallocate that towards the shortfall, but again, just to note that that would mean that the activities in terms of the tourism ambassador programme and potential feasibility studies could not progress. So the recommendations are to approve the contribution to outdoor recreation NI in relation to the Mountain Bike NI Consortium, subject to all other partner councils paying their respective contributions, that we consider options in relation to the request from Fermanagh Lakeland Tourism for a further allocation of £15,000 towards the current year's activity for marketing. We accept the offer from PSNI to install a fixed camera directed onto the giant sculpture on the summit of Mullacarn for monitoring purposes at no cost to the council, and that we note the nomination and indeed the success of the application to the RTPI Planning Awards in respect of Gortin Glens Forest Park, and the future attendance in respect of the UK Awards event in London in November.
Thank you, Kim. Well, that's a good news story on recommendation 4 around that award for Gortin Glens. We'll go to Councillor Irving.
Thanks very much, Chair. Mark. I'm happy to propose the recommendations as follows. 8.1, that's the contribution to outdoor recreation Northern Ireland. 8.3, accept the offer from PSNI to install a fixed camera on their monitoring pole. It's a pity we couldn't invigorate the giant to jump off his podium and attack anybody that's going to attack him, but I don't think we're at that stage yet. 4, I note the success of Gortin Glens and going forward to London to the finals, the RTPI. I think our panel and our officers are to be commended basically in the work they have done over the last, I would say, 3 years in actually turning that facility that we've taken over from Forest Service over the past number of years and turning it into a centre of excellence, I think, for one, mountain biking and accessibility of people both near and far, because the attraction, I think, is going out far and wide in regard to Gortin Glens. It's becoming a real hub and a thrive. It's great to see it, and long at last. Again, I would like to see more revenue stream coming from Forest Service, but I'll harp on about that for as long as I can. With regard to 8.2, I'm sorry, but Fermanagh Lakeland Tourism have a budget. If they can't live within the budget, and we've helped them already to the tune of 15k, I think it's tough luck. We, within the council ourselves, have a lot to do. And essentially, Kim, what you're saying is, if we were to give them another 15,000, we're going to be dropping some of the initiatives that we have directed ourselves. And therefore, my proposal is noted, but you're not getting it. So my proposal is on that 8.2 that we don't give them any more money, that they have to go and consider in year what they can do for the money they've got, which is quite a lot. So that's it. Thank you very much, Mark.
Thank you, Councillor. So bear that proposal in mind now. Councillor McElduff.
Chair, I'd be well placed to report on 2.4 there. I left a meeting at the Hill of the O'Neill, and Councillor Irvine was there and Kim was there, and I said to them, wish us well now as myself and Kieran McCrory head up the road to the Odyssey, and we picked up this great award. And you know, Gorton Glens was the talk of the place at the Odyssey. It was great. And you know, I borrowed the phrase about visiting Leitrim, you know, visit Leitrim where you can breathe. And I said, visit Gorton Glens where you can breathe. And I think most of them think they have to get there between now and Christmas or they won't have lived, you know. They won't have lived. But again, like Councillor Irvine has said, you know, the team led by Kim, her directorate, has been fantastic, has done tremendous work at Gorton Glens. And even people who lobby fiercely for improvements and constant improvements are taking their hat off to the council for the success story that it is. And the event itself was an opportunity for some planners and planning consultants who had achieved chartered status to be inducted into the institute. And then there was this awards bit built on as well. And later this week, we're going to have a little reflection event, you know, just informal recognition for the staff and user groups in association with Kim's directorate to reflect on that success and to share the award. And that's basically it, but it's greatly appreciated. And if ever an award was designed for Gorton Glen Forest Park and recent developments, it is planning for excellence in health and well-being. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for that. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you very much, Chair. And I suppose, first of all, I want to second Councillor Irvine's proposals as he listed them. And I want to commend Director Kim McLaughlin and her team for all the work that has been done, particularly with regard to Gorton Glen Forest Park. And I know it didn't start like yesterday. This process started way back in March 2013, when as chair of the Legacy Obedience Council, I led a cross-party delegation to the lakes in England to see what they had to offer over there. And some of what we have now in Gorton Glen is what was over there. So it's taken a bit of time to get there, but as under the direction of Kim, this has moved forward rapidly in the last couple of years, and I'm glad to see it. So I just want to put that in record, my appreciation to Kim and her team for all the work that's been done there. And I second Councillor Irvine's proposal.
Thank you. Councillor Dan Armstrong.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Kim, for your report. Yes, Gorton Glens is absolutely magical up there. Such an environmental asset to the district. In regard to that, if you permit me, Chair, sustainable tourism is an ambition of the council. And I'd like to propose we issue an invitation to Mary Mulvey, founder of Ecotourism Ireland, and she's currently working with EarthCheck, a global sustainable consultancy. I think there'd be benefits for tourism committees in sharing her recommendations on the implementation of sustainable tourism development, and to plan future tourism on the principles of sustainability. I think that would be something that we could all benefit greatly from. With regard to the giant sculptures, I'm really, really excited, looking forward to seeing these, but I'm just really upset that there's an element of concern about antisocial behaviour. But I think it's a really another really good news story shortly to be launched. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And Councillor Deehan.
Thank Thank you, Chair, and I'd like to thank Kim for her report. I wanted to add my voice to the congratulations being offered to Kim and her team on the wonderful initiative that is the development of the Gorchin Glen Forest Park. This is an asset that has been within our district council area, and now I'm glad to say that we are utilising it to its full potential. I'm delighted that the Gorchin Glen Forest Park has won this award from the RTPI, Planning for Health and Wellbeing, and Chair, there can be no better asset to the provision of wellbeing facilities than the Gorchin Glen Forest Park. So I look forward to enjoying that facility myself. I want to second Councillor Armstrong's proposal in respect of sustainable tourism. And I also would like to commend PSNI for their offer of CCTV monitoring of the giant sculpture to protect against vandalism. And perhaps, Chair, we could notify the general public regarding the security measures which we are putting in place to protect that investment so that the public are kept fully informed of it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Felix.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I just want to be quick here because I know you're under pressure. No, as a recommendation, number one, with the 6,300 for the mountain biking. I was just wondering, is that just for Gorchin Glen or is it for the whole area? I know there was talk about mountain biking up in Lochnavar, some of the foresties up there, you know, and you might know this now. I was just wondering, was it for that? And is there going to be any more mountain biking area? And say fair play to Gorchin Glen for winning that prize. I haven't been up there yet, up in the forest park and living in there, because if I was going anywhere on a day, I don't usually go to forest parks. I live in foresty all around me up at home. I'll be up in Lochnavar a lot, but I must make me business go up and see what it's like. For here, great talk about it here tonight. But I was just wondering about that mountain biking. Is there any other places in the area, Kim?
I think the promotion is really for accredited trail centres. So again, as we continue to develop our provision, we could certainly extend the marketing beyond Gorchin Glens to other trails as they develop. But at this point in time, really it would just be the accredited trails at Gorchin that apply.
Thank you. Of the recommendations proposed by Councillor Irvine and seconded by Councillor Thompson, and then we had a proposal to invite by Councillor Armstrong and seconded by Councillor Deehan. Has all members agreed with them two proposals? Thank you. Pass, members. Item 6.4 is to consider update report on the meeting of the Agriculture Liaison Group held on the 12th of May.
Thank you, Chair. So this report, as you've mentioned, updates on the last meeting of the Agriculture Liaison Group on the 12th of May. And at paragraph 2.1, I have set out really the issues which were considered at that meeting and the matters which were noted or recommended, including that we issue correspondence to the Minister for Agriculture, Environment and Rural Affairs regarding the continuing impacts of the increasing prices of fuel and fertiliser on farm businesses. So the recommendations are that those decisions are noted and progressed.
Thank you, Kim. Councillor Renee.
Yes, Chairman, I'm happy to propose the three items of recommendation and that they are approved. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Felix.
Yes, second it.
Thank you, councillors. All agreed, members, and passed. Item 6.5 is to consider reporting single consent forest road consultation paper J.
Chair, so this report provides members with a review of a consultation from the Department of Agriculture, Food and the Marine in relation to a single consent forest road at Derrylahan, Edenmore, County Cavan. We were notified of the proposal on the 13th of May and comments were to be submitted by the 13th of June, but we have received an extension of time to the 17th of June. There are a number of appendices attached, appendices 1 to 8, and a number of comments in relation to those outlined in the paper. I suppose ultimately, subject to those comments being considered, And in considering the nature of the proposal, including its short length of 290 metres, its location within an existing area of forestry and the distance from the council boundary, officers would have no objection to the proposed development. And it's recommended that the council agrees to submit comments to the Department of Agriculture, Food and the Marine, reflecting the views outlined in this report at paragraphs 2.2 to 2.9.
Thank you, Kim, for that. Councillor O'Coffey.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I don't think it's in itself there isn't anything really significantly concerning around this, but the one question I wanted to raise was if you look at Appendix 8, which provides the haulage route, you'll see that that goes up a back lane up past Cornegee turning point. Now that's a fairly tight road. Anyone who knows it, it's the way you go up to the burn. But it's also a Kingfisher cycle trail. It's also a marked path for people doing circular walks and the like up in the burn and in Gowland. And I'm just wondering whether really, if that's the haulage route for a large amount of lumber, whether there are any safety concerns really around that. Thanks, Chair.
That be maybe submitted with the comments, Kim. That's okay. Have we anyone to propose that we submit these comments, members, in this report? Councillor Maguire proposed and Councillor Thornton second. All agreed, members? Thank you. Okay, members, item 6.6 is to consider report on revised local development plan governance arrangements, paper K.
Thank you, Chair. So this report is seeking approval of a proposed revised governance approach for the next stage of the local development plan process relating to the local policies plan, and it follows on from a workshop held in the Bonacre on Monday the 30th of May, when we provided detail on the LPP stages and requirements, including the potential significant risks and challenges arising from this next stage of the process. Members will be aware that the LDP is produced in 2 stages. The plan strategy is nearing completion following the independent examination, and the LDP team has commenced work to progress the local policies plan, which can't be published until the draft plan strategy has been adopted, and indeed must be consistent with the direction set out in the plan strategy, and is subject to a range of regulations and as outlined at paragraph 1.3. In terms of key issues then, the local policies plan will set out the council's local policies and site-specific proposals, such as designations and land zonings for the development and use of land in the district. It will follow the strategic direction and the objectives set out in the plan strategy, and the LPP does not provide any opportunity to amend or to vary the strategic approach which we have already agreed through the draft plan strategy. At paragraph 2.2, I have set out the remaining stages of the process, which includes some stages to conclude the draft plan strategy stage, and also sets out the stages involved in the local policies plan, which includes extensive consultation with the public, a further stage of examination, independent examination, and then adoption. Members may be aware that the local policies plan stage is likely to require or to attract the most interest and comment from the public and from landowners, who will be interested in potential value of sites to be zoned or indeed dezoned, and the impacts that that will have on land values. It's highly likely members will be lobbied in this regard, and as part of that then will need to be very cognizant of the potential for both direct and indirect or perceived conflicts of interest, and also to be aware of their own obligations under the Council's constitution and in relation to the Code of Conduct. There are significant risks to the Council associated with any breaches of confidentiality. These could give rise to complaint or indeed to litigation, together with the potential for associated costs, alongside what could be a very significant reputational risk to the Council. It's vital, therefore, that we have a fit-for-purpose and robust governance model in place for the local policies plan stage. And this is to effectively manage risk, to enable the Council to undertake its respective roles, and those relate to both direct decision-making and also to provide a representative and advocacy role for local residents. and to ensure that the progress is progressed in a timely and efficient manner. At paragraph 2.6, I've set out the existing governance arrangements relating to the R&C committee, the steering group, the project management group, and the role of DFI strategic planning. If I could just make one amendment, incorrectly, I've referred to the LDP steering group as 12 councillors, but it is actually 14 councillors with a mix of planning and non-planning committee members. So in order to manage risk, to manage the potential for conflicts of interest, to provide opportunities for members to undertake the advocacy and representative role on behalf of local communities, as well as the decision-making role, and to make best use of the planning judgment involved in terms of the expertise of planning committee members, we are proposing a revised local development plan governance model. And that model was generally endorsed by those members who attended the workshop in the Bonacre on the 30th of May. In that revised model, membership of the LDP steering group will be amended to reflect the membership of the planning committee. And that group will be responsible for all work associated with bringing the local policies plan to final draft stage and then to presenting it to council for approval before public consultation. The bodies in terms of the wider governance model would be that the council through its planning committee would be the decision-making body, which considers and approves recommendations from the LDP steering group. The LDP steering group, which would comprise the 13 members of the planning committee, would oversee the process and provide overview and strategic input. The project management group would remain, and that comprises representatives from key statutory and government departments and relevant council officers. And just to note that a review will be undertaken to manage and record the extent of involvement of council officers and other government officials to maximise confidentiality during that stage of the process also. And the role of DFI strategic planning remains unchanged. It should be noted that as with the plan strategy, the local policies plan, following on from the independent examination and the publication of a binding report, will be presented to full council for final adoption. Members will also be aware that there have been breaches of confidentiality at various stages during the work to date associated with the LDP, and that robust arrangements for document access and control will be in place for the duration of this phase of work. These arrangements will apply to officers as well as to councils. So the recommendation is that the revised LDP governance model, as outlined at paragraph 2.7 of the report, is adopted, and that the council's constitution and statement of community involvement are updated accordingly.
Thanks, Kim, for that report. Members, you've heard the detail of this. Is there a proposer? Councillor O'Coffey.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I was unfortunately unable to make this meeting, but I have to express my grave concerns really around the proposals here. There is absolute necessity, I think, around the LDP process that we ensure that it is perceived to be as open and transparent a process as possible, and certainly one where there are adequate democratic mechanisms for oversight. We've had a number of instances already where there was grave public concern when decisions arrived at by the members were actually reversed in the process, maybe, well, it's by accident. But I think what's being proposed now is that there's going to be no oversight by this council as a whole over the perhaps most controversial section of this process, and that is the rezoning. And we all know this is an area where there's considerable public interest because of concerns of the influence of vested interests and so on around what land is zoned in which regard, and it makes tremendous amounts of money for individuals, whether a field is zoned in this form or in that form. And the fact that now we are moving away from a structure which has served us to date, which is there is a steering group consisting of the LDP steering group, 3 independents on that, obviously, and there's a planning committee. But there's also the main issue is that all goes back to the council for oversight. And I know that we can think even recently within the LDP process where members who are not on the steering group raised considerable concerns over decisions, for example, the removal of rural dispersed communities from the planning policy, things that they thought were committed to previously. And now we see this form of oversight, which is the democratically, like this, the plenary body of the council, is going to be entirely removed. And I think that that will only undermine confidence, public confidence in the process, and raise questions over decisions made. So I would like to propose that we would continue with the former model, which is basically involving a steering group reporting back to the full council in closed session, whatever it is, as necessary to make these decisions, because I think that involves everybody and it is the democratic way to proceed. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor, for that. Councillor Irvine.
Thank you, Chair. I think it's unfortunate that Councillor Coffey wasn't at the workshop. A lot of the issues that he's talking about were actually debated and explained in detail, and the legal consequence was backed up by our solicitor. So it's very unfortunate that he's coming with a sort of a blank canvas, so to speak. I'm not going to rehearse what was discussed then, but I think it's a proper way to go forward. So I'm happy to go with the recommendations. I propose the recommendations as listed. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Robertson.
I second the recommendations.
Thank you, Councillor Robertson. Councillor Keenan.
Hello, yeah, I'd like to second Councillor O'Coffey. I think overview, scrutiny and accountability is key. I think we must continue that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Well, members, will put the first proposal that was seconded to the floor, and that was Councillor Irvine, seconded by Councillor Robertson's.
Will the chair recorded vote?
We can do a vote on that, members. Yeah. Can we set up a vote, please, IT, just first? So this is on Councillor Irvine's proposal that we go with the recommendations as listed.
Excuse me, Chair. Is there any need to go to a vote? Can we just not take the two councillors who are dissenting as dissenting?
Yeah, well,
Is there any
I think
others?
so, Chair, but there has been a recorded vote requested, so I think we have to go to a recorded vote. Is that right, Kim? Yeah, okay. So members, just whenever that, I think in the chamber's ready to go, so. Okay, members, 24 for and 3 against. So that proposal of Councillor Irvine's has passed. Thank you, members. We'll move on to item 6.7, is to consider report on performance improvement, and that is paper L.
Thank you, Chair. So this report provides an update on progress of our improvement plan 21-22 as at year end at 31st of March 22, and also is seeking approval for our improvement plan and our improvement objectives for the 22-23 year. So in terms of our Q4 progress report for 21-22, we had 4 improvement objectives with 15 strands of work. At year end, 15% of activities were allocated a red RAG status due to some slippage in timeframes, while 64 activities or 85% progressed in line with identified parameters. And a number of performance measures were also monitored, and 15% of those had a red RAG status with performance below the baseline or target set, while 23 or 68% recorded positive progress in relation to impact. There were 6 measures which remain outstanding with data available later in the year, and all of this will be updated and included in our annual performance report to be published in September. In March, we agreed 6 improvement objectives for 22 to 23. We proceeded to consultation on those. Public consultation closed on the 30th of May, and a copy of the report is attached to Appendix 3. We've reflected on that and updated our performance improvement plan for 22 to 23, and that is attached at Appendix 2. So the recommendations are that the update report in relation to Q4 21-22 is noted, and that the performance improvement plan for 22 to 23 is approved for publication, and we are currently getting some design work done on that as well.
Thank you, Kim. Councillor Armstrong.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Kim, for the report. Yes, I mean, I think it's all very positive. I see in particular the metrics within tourism are going in the right direction, and that's something to be welcomed, with new tourism providers, with increased visitors over 50% in some of our major attractions. I think it's because of the staycation period we've gone through, and we've learned a lot from that. Just one area that I still think I notice it's a red flag is the female entrepreneurship. I think it's maybe as a result of COVID, but I know further work will be done on that and support the programs, and in particular the workshops that have been going on online on that. Happy with the report and happy to propose the recommendations. Thank you, Kim.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Deehan.
Thank you, Chair. I want to thank Kim for her report, and overall, I think it is very positive. Yes, we have a few improvement objectives that have red status, but this indicates, the work that we intend to complete. I think it is good that as a council we look at our performance, particularly in these key areas, and seek ways of constantly improving our performance. I just really wanted to make one comment on Improvement Objective 2, Strand 1. Improvement Objective 2 is to increase participation in council-led health, wellbeing and cultural activities, and Strand 1 is to utilise partnerships formed during COVID-19 to improve health and wellbeing outcomes for vulnerable people through pilot programmes in Omagh and Erne East DEAs that have been identified as areas which have significant health inequalities. So I am pleased that these improvement objectives have green status. I think that there has been a lot of work done in this area, and in particular I want to make mention of the multi-morbidity pilot project and the work that is due to commence on the establishment of a community support hub in each of these DEAs, and the fact that the Western Health and Social Care Trust have appointed a community support coordinator. Chair, we must address health inequalities. This is an area that is very dear to my heart, and I think we owe it to our residents to try to do everything within our power to address health inequalities, and I think this is a major step in the right direction. And I want to also acknowledge work that has been done to improve and promote services for the elderly. So happy to second the recommendation, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor. And are we all agreed, members? Okay, thank you. The next item is 6.8, to consider update report on Community Planning Strategic Partnership Board. Paper M.
You, Chair. So this report provides an update on the meeting of the Strategic Partnership Board held on the 26th of May, and the minutes of that meeting are attached at Appendix 1, and all papers in relation to the meeting are publicly available through the Council's website. There were a wide range of reports, including a progress update on actions within the people and communities theme, as well as an update on the climate change mitigation action. And progress was also noted in relation to the Oma Place Shaping Plan, the Enniskillen Place Shaping Plan, and a range of other updates, including the socio-economic profile for the district. A number of decisions were taken, and those are all listed at section 2.2 of the report. And it was also agreed to make contact with TransLink to notify them of issues with bus timetables at Gortin Glens Forest Park. The next meeting of the Partnership Board will be held on 29th of September, and it was agreed that that would be a physical meeting with a venue to be confirmed. So that will be our first physical meeting since the onset of the pandemic. And it's recommended that the draft minutes of the Strategic Partnership Board meeting held on 26th of May are noted.
Thank you. By proposer and seconder for them, please. Councillor Robertson.
Oppose the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor. And a seconder, please. Councillor Garrity. Thank you. Councillor Garrity, all agreed. Okay, members. And item 6.9 is to consider report of Director of Regeneration and Planning as Kim. Thank you.
Chair, so a number of issues. The first part of the report refers to acceptance of the letter of variance, letter of offer, and letter of sponsorship, which are outlined at sections 2.1, 2.2, and 2.3. Also, we have received a request to sponsor a category at the Fermanagh Herald Business Awards to be held on Friday, the 7th of October at the Killyhevlin in Enniskillen. We previously sponsored the Business Excellence Award category at the last event, which took place in 2019. And this category is again available for this year. The cost of sponsorship is £1,590 plus VAT, which includes a table of 8 at the local gala awards night. Also seeking approval in respect of the Northern Ireland mapping agreement. So again, to renew that agreement, which provides access to valuable mapping data and information, which is widely used by council services and across a range of public bodies. And further, in relation to Enniskillen Workhouse, just to note that a visit to Newport in Wales has been organised to consider an entrepreneurship programme, which may be suitable for delivery in Enniskillen Workhouse. So a one-day trip on Monday, the 27th of June, involving 3 officers from the council and 2 members of staff from Southwest College is planned. And that will be, the cost of flights will be met as eligible expenditure under our letter of offer from the National Lottery Heritage Fund. So the recommendation is that we note acceptance of the letter of variance, letter of offer, and letter of sponsorship. Agree to sponsor the category at the Fermanagh Herald Business Awards at a cost of £1,590 plus VAT. Agree to the renewal of the Northern Ireland Mapping Agreement for a 5-year period to 5th of April 2027. And note the proposed visit to Wales in respect of the potential entrepreneurship programme for our Enniskillen Workhouse.
Thanks for that, Kim. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thanks to Director Kim McLaughlin for her report. I'm happy enough to go to the recommendations and propose all recommendations as listed, Chair. Thank you.
And a seconder, members, please. Councillor Mary Garrity. Thank you, Councillor Garrity. Are we all agreed, members? Thank you. Mary, did you want to? Oh, no, she's just second. Thank you.
No, just a second, Chair, and welcome it. I'm delighted to second. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thanks for that, members, and your cooperation with them reports. We're on now to reports for information. And just please do remember they're for information only, members, so we don't want a lot of debate on them. 7, item 7, Community and Wellbeing Directorate Report 7.1 is to note report on the provision of Rainbow Crossings Paper O. This was John. Thank you, John.
Thank you, Chair. It's a report, Chair. There was a discussion and a proposal to consider rainbow crossings for our district in both Oma and Enniskillen. And the report has looked at issues that are surrounding rainbow crossings, both international or national at least, evidence of it, and also discussions with DFI. I suppose taking the discussions with DFI first, They have at Appendix 1, you will see that they have, in light of the issues raised, that they are currently reviewing their position in relation to facilitating such crossings, and have advised that they will consult with Fermanagh and Omagh District Council once that review has taken place. Officers have done a lot of work in relation to the rainbow crossings and the issues that surround them. There certainly have been a lot of issues that have been expressed to officers in relation to it, and indeed there is a lot of evidence available in previous consultations in the UK in relation to the impact of these, especially on a number of groups: the blind and the visually impaired, people with learning disabilities, people affected by dementia, and the neurodivergent people with a sensory processing difference. And all of them certainly lay caution to the provision of rainbow crossings. And taking account of that, and the full report is included at Appendix 2 of the consultations and the work that officers have done in relation to this. It is recommended that the Council notes the update on the provision of rainbow crossings, and that they will work with the LGBT community and whether or not or look at all those organisations and explore other ways to support the needs of that community, but not to provide rainbow crossings at this time. Thank you, Chair.
Members have seen the report. For information, Councillor Matthew Bell.
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, I'm happy to propose the recommendations. The reports on the appendices certainly outlined issues that I wasn't aware of, and I certainly learned something reading them. I do have a quick question. At the end of the recommendation, it says you'll work with organisations to explore the ways to support and meet the needs of the community. Just to clarify, I'm assuming that will include Omagh Pride, and then whilst Omagh Pride is on my tongue, just to congratulate them on getting funding. And last year's event was fantastic, and I'm sure this year's event will be fantastic as well. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Robinson's next there.
Second for Newton.
Okay, Councillor Robinson and Councillor O'Coffey.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. It's indeed disappointing, I guess. I think that there are genuine concerns expressed, and again, like I certainly didn't realise and hadn't thought through the consequences in all regards, and it was informative to be given such detail. The hope has to be, however, that we find alternative ways to celebrate our diversity as a society, and I think we should try to facilitate and encourage all groups in our society to mark and celebrate the breadth of the differences that exist in our midst. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, thanks, Councillor O'Coffey. Councillor Glenn Campbell.
Thank you, Chairman. And I suppose I would echo those words from Councillor O'Coffey. I do think it's important that we do find ways of celebrating diversity of all groups. And I want to thank and put on record appreciation really to the work of the officers here, because as Councillor Bell has said previously there, we have probably all learned a bit more about the impact that the proposed rainbow crossing would have on various groups. And I do welcome the fact that there'll be more engagement with the LGBTQ plus community and to find an appropriate way of celebrating diversity and supporting in a way that maybe isn't possible with the crossing. So I put on record the thanks to the officers. A lot of work went into this engagement, and I'm sure that'll continue, not just with Omagh Pride, but other groups as well. That sort of, no doubt there'll be a reconnection with the groups listed there in the report. Thank you, Chairman.
Ben, and finally, Councillor Deegan.
Thank you, Chair, and I want to thank John for his report. Chair, the idea of a rainbow crossing is certainly an attractive one, and I think a fun one as well. But rightly, safety issues have been raised, and particularly the potential impact on people with disabilities. And I think that we have to be mindful of that and really take that on board. I do agree with members who say that it is important for us to find positive ways of celebrating diversity within our community. As a council, we value every single individual in our district council area, and we want to promote their health and well-being. I have to say that the Omagh Pride Festival last summer was a great success, and congratulations to all of those involved in organising it. I think the feeling I had on that day was one of great warmth and support towards the LGBTQ plus community. And that is something that I was very much heartened to see, and I thought it was very positive. So yes, I mean, this proposal indicates that we should continue to liaise with the LGBTQ plus community and find ways of supporting them and celebrating with them in their various activities. So happy to support the recommendation, just with those few comments, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. That's been proposed to note, members. So we'll move on to item 7.2, is to note the Police and Community Safety Partnership Annual Report, paper P.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, the annual report is included at Appendix 1. It has 3 main priorities: to successfully deliver the Policing and Community Safety Partnership, to improve community safety by tackling actual and perceived crime and antisocial behaviour, and to support community confidence in policing. And there are details in the summary version in the report, but the full report is included in Appendix 1.
Thanks, John. Councillor Armstrong.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, and I do want to I recommend we note this report, the annual report, and there's a lot of very good work, multifaceted work being done by the PCSP. But one area that I do see, to me, as a glaring omission is antisocial vehicular behaviour. Once again, this has reared its head in Irvinstown as we approach summer, coming out of COVID, of course, too. So I'd like to put on the table a proposal to write to the district commander from Ananoma, Superintendent Mervyn Seffen, to ask that this antisocial nuisance is given a top priority in the entire district, where it is reported to occur regularly. Elderly residents living their entire lives on main streets are now being held hostage in their homes at night, frightened at the noisy racing cars going up and down the streets. And elderly residents with dementia are unsettled, and families are feeling the strain. Despite positive work by the PCSP and the local policing teams in Irvinstown in particular, who I've worked with, this antisocial behaviour is once again started. So I would ask that a member support my proposal to the PCSP, to the local policing teams, to make this a priority in our district. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for that. And Councillor Thompson.
Thank you again, Chair. And thanks to Director John Boyle for his report on the PCSP. It's a good report, and however, I do take on board what Councillor Armstrong has just said, and I know we all have been probably lobbied about this issue, and I'm prepared to second her proposal as well. So that's second the recommendation and the added proposal from Councillor Armstrong. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, that's been proposed and seconded, members. Councillor John Coyle.
Thank you, Chair. I'll be brief. Like Councillor Armstrong, I have received correspondence around vehicular antisocial behaviour. I welcome young males and females and having an interest in vehicles, but when it becomes late at night, when it's affecting families, young families and elderly people, and everybody with different health conditions, it isn't fair. We need to have respect, and I fully support a letter going to the district commander to make this a high priority for our district. Thank you.
Thank you, John. And Councillor Bell.
This is again another issue I've been lobbied on, and last month I took one of the organised young people groups to meet the community sergeant in Omagh, and that relationship is now building and working together. So if Councillor Armstrong is agreeable to maybe include the community Sergeant Hamill into the correspondence, because I know he's doing a lot of work with it and working with young people, and it's an area he's particularly keen on. So thank you, Chair.
Yeah, happy with that. We're all happy and agreed, members, with that. That proposal is incorporated, so all agreed. Thank you, members. Move on to 7.3 is to note reporting opportunities to access facilities at the Stool Arts Centre. John?
Yes, thank you, Chair. For information for members, it was a recommendation which came out of a previous meeting in relation to inform members of the opportunities available for groups, and it is provided there in section 2 of the report.
You can see that, members. Councillor Deehan has her hand up there.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Thank you, John, for your report. I'm happy to propose the recommendation, Chair. We have heard how the Hazel Wand Theatre Group have recently availed of our facilities at the Stool Arts Centre, and that's something which we very much welcomed. We really need to get the message out that we have fantastic facilities at the Stool Arts Centre. It is a beautiful building. It is a beautiful location with wonderful views of the river. And I think that it is important that the Stool Arts Centre comes to be recognised as a facility that is there for community use. And I think it will bring the community together, and it also will reassure us as members that this magnificent facility is being used to its optimum potential. So happy to propose the recommendation, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Thompson.
Thank you very much, Chair, once again. And I want to second the recommendation as put forward by Councillor Dr. Deehan.
Thank you. All agreed, members. Okay. Thanks for that, members. Item 8 on the agenda and 8.1 is to note funded programs update report. Paper R.
Thanks, Chair. So this report is really just providing an update on progress in relation to a number of our funded programs. So the RDP program and the administration unit is continuing to process promoter claims, and an outline of progress towards that is provided. The final LAG meeting was held on the 19th of May, and the administration unit is now working towards completion of the exit strategy, including post-project evaluations, claims and retention payments, and finalising the programme evaluation. Aspire Call 2 and Call 3. So we have moved into Call 3 with effect from the 1st of April 22 and have outlined progress towards targets in Call 2 and what we're working towards in terms of Call 3. In terms of Peace Plus, we are still awaiting the confirmation of the financial allocation to the Council, and the call guidance document is still to be issued, but it's anticipated the call will open in June or July. The funded programmes team are in the final stages of forming a Fermanagh and Omagh Peace Plus partnership, with the first meeting scheduled for the 29th of June 2022. And we have secured consultancy support to support the co-design process towards the development of our local action plan, with public engagement scheduled for September and October, and initial stages of desk research and plan development being undertaken at present. In terms of the TRIPSI Rural Business Development Grant Scheme, that programme is opened. We opened a call for applications, and a total of 110 applications were received, and we're currently evaluating and progressing towards letter of offer stage on those. So it's recommended the Council notes the update in respect of each of those respective programmes.
Thank you. Kim, can we have a proposer for noting? Councillor Robinson, thank you, and Councillor Irvine to second. All agreed, members. Thank you. Okay, item 8.2 is to note the Mid-South West Region Growth Deal update. Yes.
Chair, and if I could just make one amendment at the start of this, at paragraph 1.2, I've noted Councillor Robinson. It should be Councillor Thompson in terms of the Governance Steering Group membership. There are a number of updates in relation to Mid-South West programme. So we've noted the rotation of the steering group chair and vice chair. The current chair is Councillor McElduff, and that he is in post until September, with the vice chair currently Councillor Sam Nicholson from ABC Council. In terms of the complementary fund, the outcome of the first tranche of funding is outlined, and Mid-South West secured 7.5 million for one bid for the Industrial Investment Challenge Fund. Other bids were not successful, and we're currently seeking feedback from government departments in relation to those bids. We also have the opportunity to benefit from a cross-deal digital transformation flexible fund as well, and we're working with Belfast Leeds to understand more about that potential fund. An update in relation to reprioritisation and alignment of interventions across the growth deal. So some of the interventions were identified as potentially not being able to qualify for digital and innovation funding and have moved over into the Northern Ireland Executive funded element of the growth deal. We are commencing work on strategic outline cases now for all of the growth deal interventions, and this is necessary to get us to the stage where we secure heads of terms. We are starting the procurement process for those and aim to have those strategic outline cases completed by December of this year. We had a stakeholder workshop on the 27th of May in Oxford Island, and that was an opportunity for engagement with relevant officers from the Northern Ireland departments, as well as from the Northern Ireland office in respective progress towards delivery of the respective interventions. And we are also proceeding with further discussions with the universities around innovation and digital proposals. We secured funding through the UK Community Renewal Fund for a business innovation programme, which will be a precursor to the Industrial Investment Challenge Fund. And that is currently being rolled out with 69 businesses having benefited to date in relation to productivity and innovation awareness training, and 25 have benefited from business diagnostic support, and we continue to work towards recruitment of businesses for that programme. Ministerial engagements, we did have a virtual engagement with the Economy Minister, but that was unable to proceed, and we're trying to reschedule that at the moment. And there was an engagement with the Governance Steering Group, including the Chair and Vice Chair, with Conor Burns, MP, Minister of State from the Northern Ireland office on the 13th of April. And it's anticipated that there will be further engagements with that Minister. We are continuing to engage and respond to public consultations to try and influence policy and direction, and also looking at other potential funding streams for other interventions outlined in the Regional Economic Strategy, because the ambition really goes beyond growth deal funding. Agreed to report to each of the member councils twice yearly in spring and autumn, and then an outline at section 2.11 of our forward work plan, which covers a number of areas of work as well, and also continuing to work to develop the governance arrangements and the support arrangements for the delivery and development phase of the growth deal. So it's recommended that the update report is noted.
Thank you, Kim. Councillor O'Coffey.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I think my criticisms of the way in which this initiative has proceeded are probably well rehearsed at this stage, so I won't dwell on all of them. Insofar as there is an economic or an industrial policy within the government in London, I guess this is really where it finds expression. These growth deals and the like, I find the way in which they're rolled out to be quite chronic, to be honest with you, if you compare it to anything else, even in Middle Europa. You just look at how these sort of investment or programs are rolled out. It's completely different processes, but I guess you expect nothing different from the Tories. The one thing that we seem to have got out of this for our region, which is, as again I highlight, is the flagship industrial investment program of the government, is an investment, I believe it's in Cookstown, 7.5 million for Industrial Investment Challenge Fund phase one. So there's obviously more phases. I'm just wondering, is it likely that there will be any investment benefiting maybe this part of the southwest region in the next year or two? And equally, if even if there is there any information around this Industrial Investment Challenge Fund phase 1? Will this actually have any benefit for? There's a lot of industrial employers in our area. I know the Cookstown area is a centre of manufacturing. There's absolutely no doubt of that. But there is also manufacturing throughout the whole of the mid and southwest region. And it would be important that we would see some benefit accruing to that, to employers and to those who are employed in this sector in our council area. So is there any detail around how this particular investment, which is proceeding, the only thing that is proceeding under this flagship project, programme rather, is going to benefit our council area or the employers within? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Kim?
Well, the Industrial Investment Challenge Fund is not funded through the growth deal, it's funded through the complementary fund, the Northern Ireland Complementary Fund. I have shared information on that on a number of occasions. It's not a capital investment or a building located anywhere. It's a grant programme which will be delivered to businesses right across the Mid-South West region, and they will be able to avail of opportunities to invest in capital equipment to improve their productivity. And they will, we are currently also, we've also secured funding for the Business Innovation Pilot, which is an initial phase of that and will help businesses in their journey to develop their plans, and then they will be able to avail of capital funding through the Industrial Investment Challenge Fund. So it's a pipeline of projects, and it's targeted largely at small and medium enterprises right across the Mid-South West region. So it will be of value to all of the district, not to Cookstown or any one place. Overall, the programme is worth 252 million, which will be fairly equally distributed across the 3 council areas. It's a long-term programme. As I'd outlined, we are commencing the strategic outline cases for all of the growth deal interventions. We would need to then progress through outline business case and then to full business case before funding will flow. That is the construct of all city and growth deal operations, but it's a significant opportunity for large-scale investment in the Mid-South West region, including our district.
Thanks for that, Kim. Councillor McElduff.
Thank you, Chair. And it's stated there that there is to be, thorough reporting back to the constituent councils on a twice-yearly basis. This is good that it's happening tonight as well. And I know that Councillor Thompson in the governance arrangements emphasised that there needed to be that type of reporting back to the council, the full council, like this, the 40 members. 2 things, if it needed to be formalised, I would propose that we write to Minister Gordon Lyons as one of the 3 constituent councils standing alone, that we would like to have an engagement with Minister Lyons about the growth deal and about other economic development related matters, that we should do that as soon as we can. And then secondly, also it's something that was said at the meeting with and it's not listed in this report, but it's an additional element. The meeting last Thursday with the independent review panel or team looking at the effectiveness or otherwise of InvestNI, headed up by Michael Lyons, Rotha Johnson and Maureen O'Reilly were the 3 people that we met, appointed, I think, by the Department for Economy. We have criticisms of the way InvestNI has operated regionally. I think most of us are supportive of the work of the local office, what they've been trying to do, but we have big criticisms, like 90% of our businesses are small businesses, and their expansion and accommodating their expansion doesn't seem to be the focus of InvestNI. It seems to be attracting FDI, and then there's limited scope for expansion and industrial land in Fermanagh and in Omagh. There's none at this time. I think that's replicated with the Cookstown situation as well, but Omagh has no identified land for industrial development. So as well as the team coming to Hill of the O'Neill last Thursday, think they might have thought that'll do us. will have reached 3 councils together. But I think it's important that Fermanagh Omagh District Council seeks a standalone meeting with the review team to give our views of Invest NI and where there needs to be obvious improvement. So I'd make that a proposal that we engage the team. And I know that Will Dixon presented at the meeting as the manager of the project team. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for that, Councillor. Members, have we a proposer firstly for the noting of that report? Councillor Bell and a seconder, Councillor Armstrong. Thank you. And then we had Councillor McElduff's proposals that we write to Minister Lyons and also engage with that team. Seconded Councillor Maguire. All agreed on them, members? Thank you. Item 9 is correspondence. 9.1, members, to note correspondence dated 13th of April from Homestart Lakeland regarding the 10K. Just for noting, John, is that correct?
Yes, Chair, just for noting, yeah.
Have we a proposer to note, please? Councillor Kelly and Councillor Robinson. Thank you. Councillor Wilson, your hand's up there. Was it on that issue?
Yes, I had it up a minute ago. I would, you have got a proposer and seconder. It was just speaking to do with the Southwest Regional Growth Deal. One of the things that's really maybe not in place, but one of the things that is really causing problems around Omagh is the A5, whether the A5 is going ahead or not going ahead, or if it's going to be rerouted or not, because there is quite a bit of property around Omagh, or the A5 is coming really so close to Omagh that I know that there is property there that has been hindered with over the years, and may be available if there was a firm date, or that if this road is going to go ahead or not go ahead, or if it's sticking to the route that had been decided previously. But it was just something that I'd intended bringing in earlier, but then I didn't get in.
Okay, thanks, Bert. Kim has just informed me there was a meeting yesterday of the A5N2 committee, and there'll be a report coming back to PNR. So we'll hopefully pick it up there as well. Councillor Wilson.
Well, yeah, Chair, I would have thought that if anybody that had property that is affected by that should have known about that, or even maybe had the opportunity to take part in it.
Oh, it's just a council thing, is it? It's a cross-council committee, just of councillors. Okay. Thanks for that, Councillor Wilson. We'll move on with correspondence for now. 9.2, members, is to note correspondence dated the 29th of April from Donegal County Council regarding proposed variation to the County Donegal Development Plan in respect of one energy policy framework. Is there a deadline on this one, Kim, were you saying, for a response?
It's mid-June, and really following this meeting would be the deadline for any comments.
Okay, we're happy to note that, members. Councillor Irvine and seconder. Councillor Maguire, thank you, members. 9.3 is to note the following items for correspondence regarding the continuation of free lateral flow testing. 9.31 and 9.32. Go on.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, it's a response from the Department of Health and also the Public Health Agency in relation to the continuation of free lateral flow device testing.
We'll take them two together, members. Just Councillor Deehan.
Thank you, Chair. Propose to note this correspondence. Chair, I think it is important that the general public would be aware that anyone with symptoms of COVID-19 infection are eligible for free lateral flow tests, and also anyone whose work involves contact with vulnerable individuals or working in healthcare situations can also avail of free lateral flow testing. I would like to propose that maybe we should put some information on our website. It's an important issue. I want to emphasize that COVID is still with us, albeit the numbers of people having serious adverse effects from this infection and requiring hospitalization has declined significantly, and that's something to be welcomed. But we still have to be on our guard, and we still have to test if we're symptomatic to prevent the spread of this infection, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And Councillor Bell. Sorry, Councillor Bell.
Thank you, Chair. And quite happily to second noting the correspondence and Councillor Deehan's proposal. I think that's very sensible. Knowledge is power and all that there.
Okay, members all agreed that information is published and them papers are noted. Councillor Warrington.
Thank you, Chair. I was just going to come in to say that Councillor Deehan's suggestion that we do put some information on COVID on our council website, that's a very good idea, because as said, it's still with us, albeit not to the same extent, but certainly it's I know several people at the moment who has it, and that obviously will give our constituents out there information on what's going on. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, members. 9.4 is correspondence dated the 1st of June from the Executive Office regarding the roles of central government. You can see the response there yourselves, members. Is there a proposer to note? Councillor Maguire and seconded Councillor Thompson. Thank you, members. And 9.5 is email correspondence dated 8th of June from Invest NI regarding changes to how projects seeking financial support will be assessed. Do you want to say anything on that, Kim, or is it speaks for itself? Okay. Have a proposer, members, Councillor Robinson and Councillor Irvine to second. Thank you. 9.6 is correspondence for the 9th of June from the Department of Justice regarding independent members to the Northern Ireland Policing Board. And that's just for noting as well, members, if we could have a proposer and seconder, Councillor Kelly and Councillor Irvine. Thank you. I think there is another item in other 9.7. There's one item.
Yes, Chair. It's
thanks, John.
From the NIA in relation to ASSI monitoring in the Culkin Mountain area, which is taking place during June to November 22.
For noting as well.
Noting,
proposer, please, Councillor Anne-Marie Donnelly. And seconder, Councillor Robert Irvine. Thank you, members. Thank you, members. That's us through item 10, any urgent relevant business. Councillor Feely, I believe, has an item, and you've got the right man in the chamber of the night, Councillor, so go ahead there.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks very much for letting me bring this up tonight. I could have waited to the council meeting in 2 weeks' time, but I would probably have forgot about it, the only kind of head I have. So I know it can't be ratified to that, but I just want to do it tonight. Most members probably know that there was an international fly fishing competition in my hometown, a village of Garrison last week, and on Loch Melvin there, and there's a great crowd in the village. Like there's a few extra people around the town, around the bar and the restaurant and the B&Bs and stuff like. So just a great boost in the town. And Ireland, you probably might know, Ireland won it. And there's a fella from my own town, Darren Away, who was the captain of the Irish team, and I know Darren well, and he's been fishing from a very young age, along with his father and his grandfather, you know. So a great achievement for the team and for Darren as well. So I would be proposing that the chair would hold a reception for them, for the Irish team and for my local club too, the Garrison Loch Melvin Angliers. There's 2 or 3 of them on the team, and for the team to come as well. And I've been chatting Barry about it already, but I just thought that I'd make it bring it up here tonight so people know about it, you know. And for I just want to pay tribute to the club, the great work to put in beforehand. Like they put in a serious effort in getting the whole lot organised, and the whole thing went off so well. And then when Ireland won it and Darren got the cup and fight, it was a great achievement. So I just hope that we could have a chairman's reception for them.
You'll get the paperwork and all sorted for that, Councillor, as well. Thank you. Councillor Coyle.
Thank you, Chair. I'm happy to second the chairperson's reception for the Ireland fly fishing team and Garrison Angling Club. It was fantastic, showcasing our beautiful district on the UK and Ireland stage. So it'll bring benefit, and congratulations to everybody involved in organising. I know that people were making cups of tea and baking scones and everything and looking after them, just the proper Irish hospitality. So congratulations to everybody involved, and we'll raise a glass at the chairman's reception for them all.
Thanks, John. Well, everybody in the chamber's looking forward to getting home for tea and a scone. So with that, members, good night, and thanks for your cooperation tonight, and well done. So we'll close the meeting.